Hello and welcome to the Dark Reading News Desk from Black Hat USA 2025 at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. We are happy to have you join us for a conversation with Tom Parker, cybersecurity industry veteran and dark reading regular. Welcome, Tom. Thank you for joining us again.
Thanks for inviting me back. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Of course, you're my first interview of the day because I'm hoping that you can help me level set on sort of what we're seeing from a veteran perspective. So let's go ahead and, when we last spoke, you were on our podcast and you were talking to us about CISA and the role of the federal government and what the impact of that shrinking is going to have, both in terms of resource constriction, but also in terms of entrepreneurial opportunity.
Yeah.
And that was a fascinating conversation that generated a lot of buzz. And I kind of, now that we're a few weeks outside of that, I'm wondering, have you had any more thoughts on that? Have you heard any feedback? Where are you on that?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot for the last couple of months, because actually, as you know, I sold Hubble last year and I've been on sabbatical for a few months just kind of thinking about what's next. And a lot of my friends ask me, do you miss it?
Yeah.
And, you don't miss, I think if you're really genuine and authentic in this space, you don't necessarily miss the work, you don't miss the grind. What you miss is the mission.
Right.
And I think that one of the great things about Black Hat is that we're all under one roof, united around a common mission to make the world, the internet, enterprises a safer place to do business.
Right.
And I think that when you think about that in the context of your question about the impacts of CISA shrinking, I think at the end of the day, if there's a will, there's a way, right? Mm-hmm. Regardless of the administration we have on any given day, what's being funded, what's being cut, I think the private sector will always have an opportunity to help its nation, whether you're American or otherwise, to help make the national infrastructure, the critical infrastructure, private industry around it, a more secure place. And so I think with the current administration and the changes being made, I completely stand by my original point, which is that I think there's a huge opportunity for the private industry to step up and fill some of the gaps that have perhaps been created as a result of some of these cuts.
I'm interested in your thoughts really as an entrepreneur in this space too, because there was so much federal government sort of pushing the industry along, so many federal resources, and everything has become far more politicized, which is happening not just in our industry, but broadly. How do entrepreneurs stay out of that fray? We've seen Jen Easterly sort of get drug in. We've seen Chris Krebs get drug in. What are the ways in which you think entrepreneurs should approach this current environment that is so politically charged? How do you stay on the right side of that?
So I think it's definitely a challenging line to walk.
Yeah.
I think the key, and actually I recently had dinner with the head of government relations for a large cyber tech business that does a lot of work with the federal government. Mm-hmm. And I was asking them about their leadership's political leanings and if the current environment has changed any of that. And what he basically said was that if you focus on the capability and not over-rotate too much on how it's being used or the inputs into this. So for example, if you have your product is like a data processing pipeline for intelligence.
Yeah.
Right. That could be used in a lot of different ways. And so I think that we all need to just stay focused on the threat, right? And the problem that we're actually trying to solve. And the way that, I think the thing that changes is the way that any given administration is seeking to address it, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it may be sanctions. Another administration may be more focused on diplomacy. Others might be focused on more forceful, actions against a state or some foreign actor. And so I think we can't let ourselves be distracted by that. Okay. And again, just be focused on creating the capability that can address, a very well-defined market and need. And because, listen, when you build a business, you can't think about who's going to win the election, who's going to be president in 8 years' time,
Yeah.
right? The average cyber business isn't going to see an exit in all likelihood for 8 to 10 years, or some sort of IPO. It's just not possible to really think about, okay, what's going to change. I think what is important is to stay agile, though, and if you're a product company, to remain nimble enough to be able to pivot and address new needs as they do arise. But again, staying focused on that mission that hopefully motivated you to start that company to begin with.
That's good advice. Focus on the work,
Right.
not the noise.
Right.
Okay, so I wanted to bring up another point. According to a new Omdia survey, 85% of enterprise respondents, said that their resources are constrained as a direct result of this federal cut in spending.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a short-term sort of whiplash effect that will then sort of right itself? Are we now in an environment where we just cannot count on any more federal dollars, and entrepreneurs should not even look at that as an opportunity anymore? Where do you see that funding being replaced, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the economy, if you look at administration changes, there's I think the phrase is dead cat bounce, right? Where there's this kind of overcorrection and knee-jerk reaction to things happening.
Yeah.
And then there's a correction after that. And I think we are already starting to see something of a correction.
Okay.
I think even at the beginning of this year, before Trump came into power, there was everything kind of got a little tense, and like, what's going to happen? What's he going to do? And I think now we've actually seen that play out, and I think we've got a little more comfortable. Not completely comfortable, right? Because there are a lot of really, obviously there's a lot of people that are very unhappy about the outcome of the last election, but I think there's less uncertainty now in the methods that the administration is going to use in order to to execute its agenda. And so I think there is going to be a good correction. I think it's already happening. And I think in terms of you were asking specifically about like federal grants and that sort of thing. I mean, I think it's probably not a great time right now to be starting a company to sell to the federal government.
Right.
It's but I do think it's a great time to be starting a business. In some of the key areas where we're seeing softness, right, in securing AI. There's obviously, we're seeing that here at Black Hat. I think I'm really excited to walk the floor today and just, I always like going around the outside of the floor and just seeing some of the newer startups that are just getting going.
Oh, that's I hadn't thought about that approach, but yeah, that's sort of
because it's so easy to walk in there, right, and be overwhelmed by,
the F1 cars. And
exactly, right, and all the free swag, but. I'm much more interested in meeting people that maybe don't even have a booth, right? That are just getting going and really might have might be the next CrowdStrike or Palo Alto.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're an investor. You're a money guy. Where are you looking? Are there any particular companies or areas? I mean, obviously AI, but where is your antenna up in the space right now?
So what I'm looking at mostly at the moment is later stage businesses, because I think there are some really great businesses, especially in the services space, that are more entrenched in security, that have struggled to grow over the last few years.
Okay.
And to dovetail into a inevitable conversation about AI.
Right.
I do think there is a huge opportunity in those businesses to transform what they're doing using AI agents. I think there's a lot that AI still can't do well. What
is that? What are we don't have a lot of time left. I'm sorry, I ate a lot of time on other things.
It's okay.
But what are the things AI is doing well? Can we talk about those?
Yeah, so if you look at services businesses, right, generally if you go talk to, pull a pen tester off the show floor and ask them, what they hate doing, it's report writing.
Right.
Right, so that's a very basic thing where we have a big corpus of reports that organization has written over the last few decades, which is fantastic because you can train a model on that, and you can, fairly reliably automate that out of the person's, workflow for delivering that type of work. You know, you make the consultant happy, right, because they have to do less of that. You get to cycle them off an engagement and onto the next thing a lot more quickly. And ultimately, that's going to have a net improvement on gross margins of that business. And so the challenge with that is that many services organizations do not have an engineering culture, right? They generally don't know how to build software. And so one of the things I'm looking at just as an investment thesis is for opportunities to bring those two corpuses of you know, the existing legacy services businesses and opportunities to bring technology into them to create something that could be really transformative in that part of our industry.
All right. Well, our audience heard it here first. There's money to be had out there. So find Tom Parker. You can always find Tom Parker on Dark Reading. Again, at a podcast that we just had, CISA is Shrinking. He's also a regular on our webinars. Thank you so much, Tom Parker, for joining us. It's a thrill to see you again.
Thank you, Becky.
All right. So thank you so much. And we will see you again from the Black Hat USA 2025 at the Dark Reading News Desk.